Here.
Ralph Neff.
Here.
Jason Gilliana.
Here.
Bill Herring.
Here.
Andy Maletta. Mike Brickner. Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you please read through the consent agenda?
The consent agenda is the approval of minutes of April 23rd, 2024, the financial report for May, and the claims for May.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
You have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion in 2 seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. South Haven TIF update. Really excited about this.
We should be. We had a meeting with Ralph Neff, Commissioners Neff and Commissioner Herring, Mike Jabo, Andy Maletta, Bill Rathagen, and myself. And we discussed focusing on the existing industrial land zoned in South Haven and how we can activate that. And PEDCO shared that they had, which is the Porter County Economic Development Corporation, had an interest in partnering with Porter County in Portage Township economic development projects, which South Haven is in. And there might be a contribution from the Porter County Redevelopment Commission in around $10,000 to make that happen. But PEDCO is also assisted by Bill Rathagen. He is an industrial realtor in the area, and he was the other Bill at the meeting. So for the purposes of this conversation, I will call it now Bill R and Bill H. And his role would be to help us contact the property owners and determine their interest and see if we can find out of all the industrially zoned land that's there, who is interested in selling, so we can create a product that Andy Maletta through PEDCO could begin to market for the South Haven.
Will they also look at developing it, not just necessarily selling the property?
I think that was discussed.
Okay.
And then another step along the way is to determine a land plan to assemble the site data, all the information on the infrastructure, utilities, gas, electric, all those necessary items to develop a parcel. And Bill R. was sent a parcel list to review this opportunity. And the consensus was at the end of the meeting to focus on the existing TIF and not create a new one that we talked about for your consideration. And so we may want to delay the new TIF that we talked about last.
We need to talk to Scott and see if we need to vote, because we voted at the last meeting to go forward with it. And now the recommendation, and by the way, sorry, you weren't invited to the meeting. We could only have 2 people at this meeting. Scott could have been there. He wasn't there. But,
Okay, all good.
So do we need to do a vote?
Yes.
Okay.
So our next meeting as a group is June 12th, but I don't know if Ralph or Bill have anything to add to that summary.
Well, essentially, Andy Maletta is part of, what do you call that, for Portage?
PEDCO.
Porter County PEDCO.
Okay. And so he needs to get approval from Austin Bonta, Mayor of Portage, for him to engage with us. And it seems like Austin would be amenable to that as long as it's within Portage Township, which our TIF is. So he could assist. And then he has worked with Bill R. before. And then Bill R. is probably one of our best ambassadors to go out and research and find out which properties might actually be worth pursuing in terms of redevelopment. So,
Yep, I think that's pretty much what we agreed to.
So do we have a motion to, I don't know, what do we want to call it? Pause, cancel,
Table.
table. We have a motion to table the second TIF.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table the second TIF. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Did either of you have any questions on the whole thing that the whole conversation that was discussed. And Mike has just joined us too. We're talking about the TIF and the meeting that the four of you were in. Did you want to have any input or feedback on that meeting?
I thought it was pretty positive, at least.
Do you want to grab a mic? Then.
I thought the meeting was pretty positive, regardless of what site you went to. I think it showed the avenue in which these creative minds think. I don't know what you discussed to pause on. If you could get me up to speed, I'd appreciate it.
I'm sorry, can you just speak more into the mic? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
What did you decide to pause on? What was your motion?
Oh, on the TIF, the second TIF.
Not to pursue it now?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
To table it for the moment.
cool. We are looking at the original TIF. We are reaching out to all the utilities and everything else, just to bring up to speed on that.
And Mary Jane talked about the whole plan in terms, and you have agreed to help with that plan, correct? As to where the utilities are, that kind of stuff?
The South Haven area too?
Yeah.
Yes, we've already begun that process. We've
Okay.
talked to a few utilities, see what their capacity and capability is to provide power, gas. We haven't heard from NIPSCO back yet, but I did talk to Aqua.
Okay,
The area is not covered by a service territory, so it's either Portage or
Oh.
Aqua that would give this area.
okay,
American Water, we're reaching out to them. So as far
Okay.
as all the utilities, we're looking at that. And the next thing we'll be looking at is access.
okay. So
Aqua Sewer?
Mhm.
Sewer.
can I ask
It's called Aqua Indian.
then what your next, you have another meeting scheduled, correct?
Yes, June 12th,
Okay.
2:30.
And maybe Scott, hopefully you'll be able to join him
Yeah.
this time around, so. Yeah, I'm sorry that all of us can't be in these meetings, but we can't, we can't have a quorum. But I'm really excited that those of you who were able to join the meeting were in the meeting, and I thank you so much for participating. Okay, you want to go on to the Ochre Grant?
The Ochre Grant, we had a good meeting with Chelsea and Mike, and they looked over projects in the area that was defined and approved by Ochre in the income survey and came up with a project for us. And we are going to share with Mike's team the requirements for the environmental review, the application, public hearing, timeline, all that kind of stuff, so that he can begin to see what information is needed to complete an application, possibly by this year, but maybe next year, because it looks like the timeline for the project would be 2025. We agreed, like in the fall, maybe? Is that what we were looking
Late
at?
2025, early 20. Yeah.
Right, that's what I thought. So we could either look at the benefit of applying this year, and I've reached out to Okra, as I told Mike I would, but Jerry hasn't answered me back yet. But most likely, since we're looking at a 2026 build, probably we'd look to 2025.
And what kind of a match is the Ochre Grant?
It is a $600,000 grant maximum award. It's, the more you match, the more competitive you are, but the minimum match is.
And I think the projects we're talking about will far exceed the 20%, will be a very high match ratio.
And that's another reason, it's a good point, that's another reason Mike was so selective with the project, so that we could get a project that we could gain points there. Because Porter County, unfortunately, one of the factors with the Ochre Grant is distress. And Porter County historically has a low distress factor, so we literally don't get, there's like 50 points for distress, we barely get 20, because we're just so low. So we can pick it up on the match, though, and that's what Mike helped out with.
And thank Chelsea for that. She's got it all organized. And the beauty of this match process, this was a project we were going to do 100% with stormwater funds anyway. So whatever increment we can get in Ochre funds just means we get to spend more dollars on other stormwater projects.
Sure.
So I think it's a win-win all around.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Okay, anybody have any questions on that? Let's move on to the Rail Summit 2024.
The Rail Summit 2024 is held in Union League Club in Chicago. It's an annual event. It's put on by MIPA, and it brings together railroad executives from all across the country, sometimes outside of the country. And it's a good event to network, to meet people in the rail industry that may have economic development opportunities for your community. And I believe Barb talked to Rex Richards about possibly attending the event and sharing the cost
Of the sponsorship.
a sponsorship, correct? And the sponsorship that they were talking about in your packet would be the locomotive and the tugboat, which is like $14,800. It would be shared equally at $7,400 for your consideration. And you would get, you're a program sponsor, so your name and your logo is on the materials for the event. You would also have invitations to the executive dinner, which I believe is the night before, and then 12 to 16 complimentary registrations to the summit for anyone that you would like to invite. The redevelopment commission members could come, council members, anyone that you would like to invite.
So two things. First, anybody sitting here, anybody in the RDC, Mike, anybody that wants to attend this, we just need to know, because I think we get how many total?
You can 12 to 16 altogether.
Right, 12 to 16. And we just need to know because Valpo is their Economic Development Corporation is going to be kicking in 50% in this, and they're going to send some people in. So-
July 10th, it's a Wednesday. It's usually a Wednesday. And it's all day. It's like about 8 to 4. And they have coffee and things like that, and then they have your lunch, and then they have an afternoon snack. And gentlemen, just be sure you have to wear a tie. Ladies, you have to, no pants allowed.
What?
Ladies, no pants allowed.
Oh, really?
They'd throw them out of the room.
Actually, the first year I went, when I wore pants, I wear a pantsuit, my team came in polo shirts, and they had to go into a room and get a suit coat jacket.
Oh, my.
They have them there. Unfortunately, I did not have to change my pants, which was a good thing. But, yeah, so, but I was scolded. Scolded by the program organizer for coming. Her and I have been good friends since then, but, yeah, I was scolded.
And then secondly, we actually need a motion to approve our part of the sponsorship.
Correct. Has Rex said this before?
Yes.
Oh, yes, Rex has.
Got any benefit from it? Do we know?
I can tell you my story.
Sure.
When I was Economic Development Director for LaPorte County, it was the first time I went to the Rail Summit. It was probably like 9 years ago. And when I entered, because I took the train, our team took the train, the ones in the polo shirt, not the jacket, and the woman in the pants, not the skirt, that would be me. And so we get in, and Rex sees me, and Rex says, Mary Jane, there's this man looking for you, but he's not going to be here for lunch. You know, we need to go find him. I said, okay, go find him. We find him. Long story short, he becomes and contributes that summer $3 million in rail to the Kingsbury Industrial Park. And now, 8 years later, he was able to get CSX to put in a switch, and that switch was just put in about a month ago. And now Kingsbury Industrial Park is dual rail served. He has become the switcher. He's invested more in the park in rail. So from my perspective, it's a very good event. I met the right people at the right time, and Rex was there at the right time to make sure, because he knew who I was from our relationship in the past, to connect me with the person I needed to, that resulted in a mega economic development project in LaPorte County.
Rex was sharing with me this morning that, you know, over by the MAC, that is really a potential for rail there and for development on properties that they're involved in. So there truly can be some benefit to us attending. Plus, just the knowledge that we can gain by being there, I think this would be valuable for us to not only sponsor, but also attend if we can.
It does, and it gives you some information too. I was on the one, I think I went a second year after that, and the person from the Port of Louisiana was there, Port of New Orleans. And just to hear him speak and tell you where your food and produce travels and how it comes into the port and how it travels across the country and how it gets to you, incredibly amazing. Incredibly amazing.
So,
Any rail service at all for our agenda item from before about the meat processing plant? Are they anywhere near rail?
I didn't check that.
It would seem like that would be the worst thing to have, dealing with the volumes they could do and how you're gonna get everything there. I mean, obviously they can do it with trucks, but I don't know if there's a rail siding anywhere near them.
do you know?
Spur?
Trying to think as I'm driving through Hebron when I cross the railroad tracks. I cross one
Oh, yeah, there's kinda in the middle of
in
town.
Couts, yeah, and then in the middle of town. So, but does it go off to 231? I can't answer that without looking at a map.
Because every time I turn around talking to anybody about any of the rail services around this region, there are all sorts of spurs into these towns.
Mhm.
And they've been taken over by, a lot of them have been just like either given away or sold or whatever. And people actually own 3 miles of track from the main line to someplace
Sure.
in the middle of the county somewhere. And I just didn't know if there was something down there that made any sense.
I don't know. I think the 10 acres that he has, I can see it, but I don't see a rail line. I see it close to it,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
but I don't think it's to his property yet.
yeah. I just didn't know if a spur or anything like that was not.
I'll look into it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
Can you repeat the date and location?
The date is July 10th. She doesn't put out her agenda right away, but it usually starts at 8 and it's like over at 4 or 5. And then there's a reception like from 4 to 5 to end the summit.
Mhm.
And you're welcome to attend that as well. Again, I don't know if that's what she's doing this year, but that's what it's been in the past.
And the location?
The location is the Union League in Chicago,
Oh.
the Union Club
It's on that, okay.
in Chicago.
Yeah. Okay. So this must cover, is this a nationwide thing or just the North Central or?
You know, she draws,
It looks like it's picking up Shipping Channel in Corpus Christi and, the Houston Shipping Channel.
I think she picks up some from Illinois and she picks up some from
Okay.
Indiana and other parts.
Okay, interesting, okay.
Well, we do need a motion if we want to help sponsor this with the city of Valparaiso. Anybody?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. I second that motion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Would you please contact Rex so that we can get the paperwork going? Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And I really, if you can make it, you might not be able to because you're doing swimming pools in the summer.
No, I'm actually on vacation during that week.
Pardon?
I'll be on vacation during.
Oh, okay. All righty.
Well.
Okay, speaking of Project Ribeye, I asked Mary Jane if she would give us the latest.
The latest on Project Ribeye is that Nelson Schoon, who's the developer, made a request of us to confirm our position on the
Condemnation.
Thank you, condemnation for the right-of-way. And Scott and I talked about that because our position hasn't changed since the most recent phone call that we had with them. However, he put in his email that his lender was asking for this confirmation. And my past experience in dealing with lenders on projects is that lenders have their own language. No matter what we would produce for them, it would be changed. So we responded to him that we are, more than happy to look at anything that his lender wants us to look at, and we can start the conversation there, because I'm sure there will be more documents just other than the condemnation document for this project with his lender, that they'll want assurances from us of what we're doing regarding this project. And that's how we responded, and he hasn't responded back to me yet. We did that last Wednesday, I think. And then also in the email before that or after that, he said that Hebron is the only project site now. He was looking at other project sites, but he's no longer doing that. Hebron is the site for Project Rebuy. Pardon me?
We still are unaware of his grant from the federal or from the state or any other avenues of potential financing have officially been granted.
And Mary Jane knows that she's not supposed to expend any significant time or resources until we know the level of funding and whether this project is a go.
And he is supposed to find out about one USDA grant, I would assume any day now. It's the end of this month. And then he's supposed to find out about a state grant at the early June.
And what are the dollar amounts for,
I believe the USDA grant is $3 million, and the state amount, I think, is capped at $2 million.
okay.
And either of those would give him enough financing to go to his banker and get the balance of the funds needed for the project.
Anybody, who doesn't know who Nelson Schoon is? Have all of you met him? He presented here last year.
Yeah.
So you know him, Ralph, you don't know him. Do you know what Project Ribeye is?
I do not.
Do you just want to give a 1 minute?
Sure. Project Rebuy is an economic development project outside the town of Hebron on 231, and it is for a meat processing plant. His intent is to process pork and beef, and his intent is also to have a retail location, but his meat processing is completely enclosed. So the animals will arrive, and they will be brought indoors, and then there will be nothing else. They will not be stored outside till they go through the processing process.
This is basically to fill the niche of being able to have cattle or steers get to a certain size, have them commercially butchered. There seems to be a great lack of that ability anywhere around for people who are raising their own steers. On top of that, it fills that economic niche, which is why those grants are actually available at the Fed and state level. And I'm not going to try to be specific because I will screw it up, but ultimately it was the entire design was at the highest USDA level, so that from the moment animals are dropped off, everything is developed, sized, architect in a way in which the holding period goes from transport to processing, I think, in 6 or 8 hours, as opposed to most places they have to have the animals on site for multiple days to bring the agitation levels and things like that down to a level that they're ready to be processed. So pretty state of the art from a USDA level and filling an economic niche that's been identified, hopefully in an area that this is the type of exact economic activity that people in this area would be participating in at a higher level. The retail portion was kind of like a fancy outdoor vending machines that you could pre-order and pick up after closing with a code, open up the freezer door, get whatever refrigerator door, whatever you purchased, and move on. That was the retail portion of the development. So,
And the idea also is that small producers haven't been able to find a place for their animals to be processed. That was the niche that he was referring to, because the large producers just take all the capacity. So this is, his previous experience was, work life was working with farmers, and that was the most common thing he heard from them, those that did domestic meat, that, you know, we raise our animals, we're ready to go to market, but we can't get into the meat processing plants because we're not big enough. And so he came up with this idea, and he's hoping that it's successful in Hebron, and if it is, he hopes to continue that success in other parts of the state, maybe even in the country.
And two things that he thinks distinguish him from the other meat processors is he wants to pay the people that work there exceedingly well. And he also wants it to be where people can actually come and view parts of the operation. I don't think the slaughtering is part of that, but the processing of the meat is, he's hoping that can be some kind of a tourist attraction where people can come.
You know, he's very excited about it. I mean, he believes in the concept. He believes he has a market, a strong market. He's got people lined up who want and need some place to process their animals.
okay, thanks.
Welcome. Okay, we're at the point of public comment. Don't all rush up at once.
Make an orderly line.
So our next meeting will be on Tuesday, June 25th at 4 p.m.
Is correct.
And if there's nothing else, we're in recess. And less than a half an hour. Great job.
At 4.
What?
At 4.
At 4. At 4. The reason we changed it to 4 is because Mike Brickner can't make it here at 3:30, so.
That is correct.
I didn't say that.
That was, sorry, Mike.
Did we adjourn?